Our about is not really clear. What is this realm beyond space-time about? And so I'm proposing that the realm beyond space-time is about consciousness.
And I would suggest that infinite consciousness has the ability to localize itself as numerous separate subjects of experience. That is, all sentient beings, all people, all animals. Each of us are localizations of infinite consciousness, in infinite consciousness, made only of infinite consciousness, from whose perspective it views its own activity as the outside world. So what appears to us as a world made out of matter, from our localized perspectives, is, from the point of view of reality, simply the activity of the one infinite consciousness. In other words, in the ultimate analysis, there are no discrete or independently existing things or people. There is one infinite, indivisible whole, the unity of being, that is only refracted into an apparent multiplicity and diversity of objects and things when the one looks at its own activity through the perceiving faculties of the finite mind.
If we are awake, we realize that there's one awareness that is disguised as all of these different beings on the planet. One awareness shining through everyone's eyes. Then we literally see ourselves in others, and that tendency to operate as an ego, the tendency to take for oneself, falls away because we directly realize the truth. The truth is that we're all one consciousness.
The experience of my spiritual self was only possible in the realm of the physical for a very good reason. Because only in the realm of the physical was the opposite available. In other words, just to use a simple example, if I wanted to experience myself, if I could speak metaphorically, as the light, I couldn't experience being the light if I was amidst the light, nothing else around me but the light, which is a perfect definition of the realm of the spiritual. So I would come to a realm which I call the realm of the physical, where there is something other than the light. Because if I want to experience myself as the light, not just know myself as that, but experience it, I could only do that where there was the opposite of the light, in this case, the darkness. So I brought myself to the physical realm where the light and the dark exist simultaneously. And then in that outward expression of myself as the light, I could be who I really am.
This understanding suggests that behind our differences, we are all the same being, not a similar being, but we are all literally one, the same being. And love is the felt experience of this oneness or shared being.
It's a theorem of our theory that there is ultimately one consciousness. So we have this dynamics of many, many conscious agents, but the theory tells us that ultimately all those conscious agents are really just projections of a single one consciousness. The current paradigm in science has, and it has been for centuries, is that space and time are the fundamental nature of reality. They're irreducible, and they are the foundation of everything. And prior to Einstein, space and time were viewed as separate. Now space and time together, unified into space-time, are viewed as the fundamental nature of reality. And science has then assumed that space-time and objects in space-time are the foundational reality. And so, for example, when we talk about consciousness itself then must be somehow a product of objects in space and time. In that physicalist framework, space and time and physical objects, without any consciousness, are the fundamental reality. And consciousness comes later on in the evolution of the universe, right? So that the Big Bang, there was no consciousness, there was just space-time and energy. The energy coalesced into massive particles, and eventually life emerged after who knows how many millions or hundreds of millions or billions of years. Then after that, consciousness came even later. From that point of view, when you die, the physical complexity that gave rise to consciousness dissolves, and so your consciousness dissolves. And so the physicalist framework really does eliminate consciousness as a fundamental thing altogether, and says that when your body dies, your consciousness goes with it. From this other point of view, what I've done with my colleagues is we used evolutionary theory to point out that it's an implication of evolutionary theory that space and time is not fundamental. So the physicalist interpretation of evolution is wrong. The idea that space and time and particles somehow have evolved to human organisms is the wrong framework, because space-time itself is not fundamental. We're positing a dynamics beyond space-time that's much richer, this dynamics of consciousness. What we do not do is throw away our old theories. When physicists say space-time is doomed, that doesn't mean we no longer pay attention to Einstein. Absolutely not. We pay attention to Einstein. Any new theory beyond space-time that the physicists come up with better project into space-time and give us back Einstein, and it better give us back quantum theory, or you're wrong. Right? So all of our old theories are wonderful, wonderful friends, and we're going to keep them as special cases of a deeper theory. So in our theory of consciousness, we have to do the same thing. We can't just propose anything we want. We have to have a theory of consciousness that projects and gives us back space-time. It gives us back quantum theory. It gives us back special and general relativity, and it gives us back evolution by natural selection. If we cannot do that in precise mathematical detail, then there's no reason for scientists to take our theory of consciousness seriously.
It's as if infinite consciousness puts on a virtual reality headset. Infinite consciousness puts on a VR headset made of thinking and perceiving. And in doing so, the moment it puts on the VR headset, it localizes itself within its own activity. And through that headset, it looks out through the perceiving faculties of a finite mind, seeing, hearing, touching, tasting, and smelling. And it fragments the unity of its own being and makes it appear as 10,000 things. What I'm suggesting is that there is very much more to the universe than the finite mind. I'm not suggesting that the universe only appears in each of our finite minds. The universe exists outside of our finite mind, but inside consciousness. But it is the limitations of our finite mind that give the universe its appearance. So when we look out at the universe, we're seeing the reality that exists prior to its being perceived. But we are seeing it through the lens of our perceiving faculties, which gives it its appearance.
So the idea of awakening in many spiritual traditions has been the idea that what we have taken as reality, objects in space and time, our physical bodies and so forth, is not the final reality, that there's a much deeper reality, a reality of consciousness that transcends space and time and physical objects, and that we're not divorced from that reality. That reality is, in some sense, the essence of what we are. And so awakening is awakening from the illusion that I'm just a little body in space and time to the fact that I'm, in fact, the author of everything I see inside of space and time. I create it on the fly as I look and perceive.
One becomes awakened by recognizing that what we essentially are is already fully awake, fully aware, complete, whole, fulfilled, at peace. It's like asking how does the sun become illuminated? Its nature is light. It is already fully illuminated. The nature of our essential being is already peace and happiness. It's not clear to us all because our essential being is so thoroughly mixed with the content of experience that its innate peace and happiness is dimmed by experience. And for that reason, we think that our essential being needs to be enlightened. No, our essential being doesn't need to be enlightened any more than the sun needs to be lit up in the early morning. The sun's always shining with the same brightness. Our essential being is always shining with the same peace and joy. But that peace and joy are dimmed by the agitation and lack that characterizes our thoughts and feelings.
There's no person that awakens. So the I that awakened, I awakened from this Dan structure at a meditation center. It was a Zen center. We were doing a Zen session, which is a long period of intensive practice. So Zen is amazing for creating this container where there are these conditions of no escape. So the Dan character that had learned meditation, the Dan character had been doing all this meditation, this doer of meditation realized that it couldn't awaken. It's like all the meditation tricks, all the practices that had been learned were of no use. It got to the point where that character who was trying to awaken failed to awaken and had to fail. The character that I'd been living, the character that I'd been playing all my life had to let go or die. And what was left when that character, when there was no doer, when there was no meditator meditating or doing something called meditation, what was left was my true nature, or me, just me.
When we awaken from this small, separate sense of self, it's not that we're killing the ego or we're fighting it. It's actually we're allowing it to semi-retire from its job of ego identity and then relax to be part of our team, part of our consciousness. And this gives us a sense of freedom immediately, that we're not looking at the world through a small lens, that we're open-hearted and open-minded in a way that's expansive and yet at the same time more intimately connected.
Enlightenment is not about becoming awakened. Nobody becomes awakened or enlightened. It's a recognition of the light of pure knowing, whose nature is peace and happiness, that we always and already are.
My name is Lisa Natoli, and I'm known as a spiritual teacher. I teach about healing and awakening and transformation. Awakening is the recognition of your true nature, and it's the realization of what you really are, which is consciousness. And consciousness is just one word for many words that people use